The Empire Strikes Back wasn't just the sequel that changed everything about blockbusters. It was a production built on lies. The lead actor was fed fake dialogue to protect the biggest twist in cinema history.
I'm not looking for a friend. I'm looking for a Jedi Master.
George Lucas gambled his entire fortune, his house, his company, everything, on a film that critics initially hated. The Yoda puppet almost got replaced by a monkey in a mask, and Hollywood's own union tried to pull the movie from theaters before anyone could see it.
This is supposed to make me feel good?
Feel good? Really? Today, we're exposing 15 hidden truths behind The Empire Strikes Back.
I am your father.
Including why Harrison Ford improvised the most iconic line in the trilogy and how one actor showed up to the premiere and discovered he'd been lied to for months. Let's get into it. 1. David Prowse never said the line. The greatest plot twist in movie history was built on a lie told to almost everyone involved in the production. When they filmed the Luke versus Vader confrontation, David Prowse was given completely fake dialogue.
I am your father.
Instead of, "No, I am your father," his script had him shouting, "Obi-Wan killed your father." Only 3 people on the entire set knew the real line: director Irvin Kershner, Mark Hamill, and George Lucas. Hamill was pulled aside minutes before they shot the scene and told the truth, with a warning: "If this leaks before release, we'll know it came from you." The voice would be dubbed by James Earl Jones later anyway, so Prowse's performance didn't technically matter. But he didn't know that. He was absolutely furious when he attended the premiere and discovered he'd been lied to for months. Everyone else in the theater gasped at the twist. Prowse sat there realizing he'd been played. 2. The Hoth Blizzard was completely real. The opening sequence on the ice planet. Hoth wasn't created with wind machines and fake snow in a studio. A massive blizzard hit Finse, Norway during production and trapped the entire cast and crew inside their hotel for days. The conditions were so dangerous that normal filming became impossible. But director Irvin Kershner saw an opportunity. The iconic shot of Luke Skywalker wandering alone through the whiteout storm. They filmed it by having Mark Hamill literally run out the hotel's front door into the actual deadly blizzard while the camera crew stood safely inside the warm lobby filming through the entrance. It was dangerous, freezing, and completely authentic. The desperation and cold you see on screen is real. Hamill was genuinely suffering in sub-zero conditions. Sometimes the best special effects aren't effects at all. 3. Yoda was almost played by a monkey. This sounds like a joke. It's not. George Lucas had a vision problem for the ancient Jedi Master. He didn't want a puppet. He thought puppets looked fake and wouldn't be taken seriously by audiences. His solution was genuinely bizarre. Cast a trained monkey, put a Yoda mask on it, give it a tiny cane, and have it walk around the Dagobah set doing scenes with Mark Hamill. Lucas was completely serious about this plan. Someone on the production team finally pointed out the obvious flaw. The monkey would immediately rip the mask off its face and probably attack Mark Hamill. That's when they contacted Jim Henson's company and brought in Frank Oz to create and perform the puppet that became one of cinema's most beloved characters. We were one bad decision away from Monkey Yoda. Think about that. 4. Frank Oz suffered underground for weeks. The Dagobah set was built on a raised platform so Frank Oz could operate Yoda from underneath, completely hidden from the camera. What sounds simple on paper became a physical nightmare. Oz had to stand in a cramped space beneath the set holding a heavy puppet above his head for hours at a time. The position cut off circulation to his arms. He lost feeling in his hands. He couldn't see what he was doing because he was working blind underground, watching only a monitor. Meanwhile, Mark Hamill had to deliver emotional, meaningful scenes while acting opposite a piece of rubber on a stick. The physical toll on Oz was so severe they had to schedule frequent breaks and limit his daily hours, or he literally couldn't continue. All that suffering for a puppet. The puppet became a legend. 5. The opening credits nearly killed. The release, George Lucas was fined $250,000. The Directors Guild of America threatened to pull The Empire Strikes Back from theaters before it even opened. The issue? Opening credits. DGA rules required that the director's name must appear at the beginning of every film. Lucas put all the credits at the end, like he'd done with the original Star Wars, to preserve the dramatic opening crawl without interruption. The DGA considered this a contract violation and tried to block the film's release entirely. Lucas paid the massive fine out of his own pocket. Then he quit the Directors Guild in anger. He never rejoined a major union again for decades. Hollywood tried to kill Star Wars over where the credits appeared. Lucas paid the price and walked away from the system. 6. Harrison Ford refused to say, "I love you too."
I love you.
I know.
The carbon freezing chamber scene was supposed to end with Leia saying, "I love you," and Han responding, "I love you too." Harrison Ford hated it. He thought the line was cheesy, sentimental, and completely wrong for Han Solo's character. He argued with director Irvin Kershner for hours about changing the dialogue. The production was on a tight schedule. They needed to move on. Finally, Ford just shouted, "I know!" in frustration during the argument. Kershner immediately realized Ford had accidentally created the perfect line: arrogant, confident, vulnerable, completely in character. They shot it that way and created one of the most quoted exchanges in the entire trilogy. Sometimes the best writing comes from an actor losing his patience. 7. Hidden potatoes and shoes in the asteroid field. The visual effects team at Industrial Light and Magic spent months working on the asteroid chase sequence, meticulously creating hundreds of space rocks for the Millennium Falcon to dodge. The tedium drove them slightly insane. If you watch the scene carefully in high definition, you can spot their revenge against boredom. One of the asteroids tumbling past the ship is actually a potato. Another is a tennis shoe. The effects artists snuck them into a few frames as a joke, figuring nobody would ever notice in the theatrical release on 1980s film projection. They were mostly right until home video and freeze-frame technology exposed their prank decades later. Somewhere in that asteroid field, there's a potato. It's canon now. 8. The Emperor was a woman with chimp eyes. The holographic Emperor who appears to Darth Vader in the original 1980 theatrical release wasn't Ian McDiarmid. It was an elderly actress named Marjorie Eaton wearing heavy prosthetic makeup, with chimpanzee eyes digitally composited over her face to make her look alien and disturbing. The technique was cutting edge for 1980. It also looked bizarre and unsettling in ways the filmmakers didn't intend. When the special editions were released in the 90s, Lucas completely replaced the scene with Ian McDiarmid to maintain continuity with the prequels. The original chimp-eyed Emperor was erased from official versions of the film. If you've only seen the modern version, you've never met the original Emperor. She was genuinely creepy, just not in the right way. 9. Alec Guinness hated Star Wars. Obi-Wan Kenobi almost didn't appear in The Empire Strikes Back at all. Alec Guinness openly despised Star Wars. He considered it beneath his serious dramatic career, childish nonsense that he resented being most famous for. Lucas desperately needed him back for Force Ghost scenes. Guinness refused unless his demands were met. He would only work from 8:30 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. He wanted a massive percentage of the film's profits, and he needed minimal days on set. Lucas agreed to everything. Guinness showed up for a handful of half-days, collected millions of dollars, and continued complaining about Star Wars in interviews for the rest of his life. He hated it. He got rich from it. He never stopped being bitter about both. 10. Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo dead. Harrison Ford refused to sign a contract for a third Star Wars film before Empire began shooting. He actively campaigned to have Han Solo killed during the carbon freezing sequence. He thought the character had no depth, no family, no backstory, and no arc. Ford's exact words: "He's got no mama, no papa, no story." He wanted a heroic death that would give Han meaning. George Lucas refused to kill off such a profitable character, but he also didn't know if Ford would return for another movie. The solution was freezing Han in carbonite, which left the door open either way. If Ford came back, they'd rescue him. If he didn't, Han could stay frozen forever. The carbonite wasn't just dramatic, it was a contract negotiation. 11. Boba Fett debuted in the holiday special. The most iconic bounty hunter in Star Wars history didn't make his first appearance in The Empire Strikes Back. Boba Fett actually debuted in the disastrous Star Wars holiday special that aired on CBS in November 1978, more than a year before Empire was released. He appeared as an animated character in a cartoon segment that was the only watchable part of the legendarily terrible special. The animation showed him as a villain who initially befriends the heroes before betraying them. Lucas was so embarrassed by the holiday special that he's tried to bury it ever since. But he couldn't erase Boba Fett's bizarre origin. The coolest character in the franchise came from the worst thing Star Wars ever produced. 12. Boba Fett's armor was originally all white. When the costume designers first created Boba Fett, they painted his armor pure white, like a super stormtrooper, to show he was an elite soldier. Test footage made him look too clean, too pristine for a character who was supposed to be a dangerous, ruthless bounty hunter. They repainted the entire costume with beat-up green and yellow colors, added rust effects and battle damage, and made him look like a scavenger who'd been collecting armor pieces from different sources. The weathered, asymmetrical look made Fett instantly more interesting. It turned him from a generic soldier into a character with implied history that fans wanted to know more about. One repaint created decades of fan obsession. 13. AT-AT walkers sound like metalworking. The distinctive mechanical footsteps of the Imperial AT-AT walkers on Hoth weren't created with synthesizers or computer effects. Sound designer Ben Burt recorded himself striking a heavy metal shear against an anvil in a workshop, then processed and layered the metallic clangs to create the thunderous walking sound. The Rebel snowspeeder engines? Even stranger. Burt recorded cheetah growls at a zoo, then modified and looped them. The organic animal sounds layered under mechanical effects gave the vehicles a visceral quality that purely electronic sounds couldn't match. Next time you watch the Battle of Hoth, you're hearing metalwork and zoo animals, and it sounds perfect. 14. Lucas bet everything he owned. After the first Star Wars made hundreds of millions of dollars, every Hollywood studio wanted to finance the sequel. George Lucas turned them all down. He decided to pay for The Empire Strikes Back entirely with his own money and bank loans, $33 million total. This was an insane gamble. If the movie flopped, Lucas would lose his house, his company, and Skywalker Ranch before it was even finished being built. He'd be personally bankrupt. But financing it himself meant the studios couldn't interfere with creative decisions or take ownership of the franchise. Lucas bet his entire future on Empire's success. He won, but he came terrifyingly close to losing absolutely everything. That's not confidence. That's faith in your own work taken to its logical extreme. 15. Critics hated it when it opened. Here's the one that should humble every critic alive today. The Empire Strikes Back premiered on May 21st, 1980, to reviews that ranged from mixed to negative. The New York Times wrote that it wasn't as fresh as the original and felt like a retread. Critics complained about the dark tone, the lack of a happy ending, and especially the cliffhanger that left major plot threads unresolved. Many reviewers thought the movie was a cynical cash grab that existed only to sell toys and set up another sequel. It took years and repeated viewings for critics and audiences to recognize Empire as a masterpiece. Now it's consistently ranked as one of the greatest films ever made and the best Star Wars movie. But in 1980, the critical establishment thought Lucas had blown it. The greatest sequel ever made was initially considered a disappointment. The Empire Strikes Back proved that darker, more complex sequels could work if you were willing to take genuine creative risks. Which behind-the-scenes secret shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed learning how the greatest sequel ever made nearly destroyed everyone involved, hit subscribe for more stories about the films that changed cinema forever. See you in the next one.